Okay, hello, my seventh graders. This week we will be learning about the ancient Greece, and this is chapter 6. And if you are interested, you can find it on page 48 in your book. A drama in two acts. Okay, Act 1 will be the appearance of the stage of world history, 6.1. A new zine. Act 1 opens with the origin of Greek civilization and leads to the rise of the Athenian Empire. The history of Greece is like a drama in two acts, like we said. So, we said that Act 1 opens with the origin of the Greek civilization and it leads to the rise of the Athenian Empire. Okay, and the Act 2 will begin with the Great War between Athens and Sparta, which sets the stage for the rise of Alexander the Great, the conqueror who came from the west on the face of the whole earth. Here we have Alexander the Great. Ancient Greeks. Well, ancient Greeks excel in poetry, politics, philosophy, and arts. But they desire to exceed men's limit. The origin of the Greeks. Okay, the Greeks were descendants of Japheth's son, Javan. Perhaps Japhet himself went to Greece, for people were already living there very early in the world history. Okay, now we're going to continue talking about the Minoans civilization. This civilization was the earliest civilization in the vicinity of Greece. Minoans civilization produced such impressive structures as the Palace of Knossos, which occupied more than 4 acres and contained an excellent plumbing system. Some historians believe that volcanic activity on a nearby island may have destroyed this civilization. On Crete, with volcanic ash, earthquakes, and tidal waves. Okay, now that we had already talked about the Minoan civilization, we are going to continue talking about the Mycenaean civilization. The Mycenaeans flourished on the mainland of Greece between 16,000 and 12,000 BC. The Mycenaeans used the sea for adventures, piracy, and war that often took them far from home. Something that stands out that not too good, something not too good that they did was that they burned the city of Troy on the coast of Asia Minor after a 10-year war. Can you imagine a 10-year war? That's a long, long time. Okay, now Homer. Homer and Greek mythology. Although we know little about Homer, he probably lived during the 700s BC, perhaps on the island of Crete or in the city of Smyrna. He seems to have been a bard, a singing poet, and may not have even known how to write. Homer gets the credit for polishing and refining the old stories of Greek mythology to create the Iliad and the Odyssey, two poems which we still read and admire. Okay, now keep in mind that Homer was a poet, right? Okay, in his poems, he shares or he wrote a lot about gods. Okay, so the Olympian gods. From Homer, the Greeks learn of the gods who supposedly lived on Mount Olympus. Supposedly, okay? Now we have Zeus, which is he was like the king of the gods. Like the Mesopotamian, the Egyptian gods, the Greek Olympian gods were associated with powers of nature. Okay, then we have Apollo, which is has a connection with the sun. Poseidon has a connection with the sea, and Artemis with the moon. And Artemis, this is the last one here mentioned, is a female god. Okay, something that I didn't add on the slide, but it's also important to add. They also had heroes. Human characters also played important roles in Homer's poems. Like the gods of Olympus, these heroes were glorified human beings, but they differ from the gods only in that they were mortal. They could die, and the gods couldn't. And not only that, but they were less powerful. Okay, we are going to continue with 6.5, Greek philosophy. The birth of Greek philosophy. Okay, the first Greek to call the false gods into question were the philosophers. Philosopher means lover of wisdom. Several things led the philosopher in their quest of knowledge to project the myths about the gods. It was obvious to people of intelligence that gods of Homer's poems were fictional, but was only obvious to smart people. Now, those who weren't too smart, they believed everything they read on these poems. Okay, what about Greek philosophers? First, we have Socrates, the first philosopher to insist that morality or proper conduct is a part of philosophy. Here we have a picture of him. Well, he urged his students to ask questions and to examine their beliefs. Know thyself was his sage advice. But lacking knowledge of the absolute moral standards of the one true God, as revealed in Scripture, he could not prove his ideas to others or himself. The superstitious Athenians accused Socrates of corrupting the youth of Athens because he encouraged his students to question their beliefs. So, since he would say, know thyself, question your beliefs, how can this be possible? Well, they started doubting these gods of the city. And given a choice between exile from Athens or death, Socrates chose to take his own life by drinking hemlock, which was a poison. So he committed suicide. Now, Plato and Aristotle. Socrates inspired Plato, one of his students, who became one of the greatest philosophers of all times. Aristotle was Plato's most famous pupil. And something that is very important to know is that Socrates did not record his philosophy. Plato wrote 30 or more works called dialogues. In these dialogues, he didn't make it clear answers to the fundamental questions about the basic principles of all things. He also added in there plays, although they were not meant to be performed. He recognized order, design, or purpose in the universe. However, Aristotle did not recognize that God is the one who gives order to everything in the universe. So basically, they were smart, yes, but they were lacking, God. So that's why they couldn't really organize their beliefs. Now, you have a questionnaire. You will have to answer 7 questions on your notebook. The answers are on this presentation. So you will write the question, the answer. Then after you finish, you will send me a evidence, a picture to my WhatsApp. Okay, until next time. Thank you very much.